Baruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin together Be'ezras Hashem on Daf Chov Zayin Amud Aleph, 8 lines from the bottom. The Gemara brings a Maisa of Rebbe who took on Shabbos, of Rav rather, who took on Shabbos early. Rav iklo lebe Gneva v'tzali shel Shabbos be'erev Shabbos. Rav went to the house of Gneva and he davened a tfilas mariv shel Shabbos on erev Shabbos. V'hava matzli Rabbi Yirmiyahu bar Abba la'achorei de Rav, and Rabbi Yirmiyahu bar Abba davened behind Rav. V'siyem Rav v'lo paske l'tzilusei de Rabbi Yirmiyahu. And Rav, when he completed his Shmona Esrei, he did not walk behind him as not to interrupt the Shmona Esrei of Rabbi Yirmiyahu who was behind him. Says the Gemara, Shma Mina Tlas, we can learn 3 different halachos from this Maisa. Shma Mino Mispalel Odom Shel Shabbos be'erev Shabbos, that a person can take on Shabbos on erev Shabbos early and therefore daven a tfilas mariv after plag hamincha. V'shma Mino Mispalel Talmid acharei Rabbi. We can also learn from here that a Talmid can daven behind his Rebbe. V'shma Mino Osir la'avor keneged hamispalalim. We also learn over here that a person is not allowed to walk in front of those who are davening. Messiah le Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. The Omar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi also lavar keneged hamispalalim. Rabbi Yoshua Levi teaches us that you cannot walk in front of somebody who's davening for one of 2 reasons, or because it's causing a hefsek and therefore it will then distract the one who is mispalel. It will disturb his kavanah. Or also because it will be mafsik between the mispalel and the shechina, that the shechina is betoch daled amos of the mispalel. Says the Gemara, Ini, is this so? Is this indeed true that a person cannot walk in front of somebody who is davening? Veho Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, Chalfi, they did walk in front of somebody who was davening. Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, Chutz la'arba amos havoi hu dechalfe. They walked in front of somebody who was already 4 amos away, and they walked in front of him a distance already of 4 amos away, and therefore that's not considered to be an interruption, not of his kavanah, and also not interrupting the shechina that is before him. Rabbi Yirmiyahu, Hechi Ovid Hachi, asked the Gemara, how did Rabbi Yirmiyahu, who was the Talmid of Rav, daven behind his Rebbe? V'ho'omar Rabbi Yehuda Omar Rav lo'oilom al yispalel odom lo kineged Rabbo lo acharei Rabbo. Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rav himself that a person cannot daven not next to his Rebbe and not behind his Rebbe. Not next to his Rebbe, because then it implies that he is somebody who is equal to his Rebbe. And not behind him, either because it'll cause his Rebbe a disturbance by not being able to then take his 3 steps backwards. Or maybe it'll look as if when he bows down, he's bowing down to his Rebbe. Chalila. V'tanya Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Also, we have a brayso that Rabbi Eliezer taught the following. Hamispalel acharei Rabbi. A person who does daven behind his Rebbe. V'hanoisin shalom l'Rabbi v'hamachzir shalom l'Rabbi. If a person gives shalom or returns shalom to his Rebbe in an ordinary fashion, as if he's just another friend, and he doesn't say in a derech of kavod, or by saying shalom aleichem Rebbe, v'hal choylek al yeshivoso shel Rabbi, or somebody who's a Talmid of a Rebbe, and he opens up his yeshiva, his beis medrash in the vicinity without the permission of his Rebbe. Or he says something that he did not hear in the name of his Rebbe. Because since when he speaks divrei Torah, the assumption is that he's saying over things that he heard from his Rebbe, and therefore if he doesn't qualify and say what he's saying is not what he heard from his Rebbe, then that also is amongst the things that is gorem l'shchina should histalek mi Yisrael. It causes the shchina to then leave Klal Yisrael. Shiny Rabbi Yirmiyahu answers the Gemara. Rabbi Yirmiyahu bar Abba is different. The reason why he was able to daven behind Rav is because the Talmid Chover Hava. He wasn't an ordinary Talmid, he was a Talmid Chover. That means to say, it's true, he learned from Rav, but he was also a peer of Rav's. And therefore, as a Talmud Chover, he was permitted to daven behind him. V'hainu dekamar le Rebbe Yirmiyahu bar Abba Rav mi badilt. That's Gemara is bringing up proof that Rabbi Yirmiyahu bar Abba said to Rav directly, did you desist from doing malacha once you davened a Shmona Esrei of Shabbos on Erev Shabbos? In other words, you already took upon yourself Shabbos. Are you careful to desist from not doing malacha? Omar le in badilno. Yes, I desisted from doing malacha. V'loy Omar mi bodil mar. And he didn't say to Rav in third person, did the master separate himself, desist from doing malacha? The fact that he talked to him directly implies that he was a Talmud Chover. Ask the Gemara, umi bodil. Does a person who davens a tfilas mariv on Erev Shabbos, does he have to desist from doing malacha? V'ha'omar Rabbi Abin pa'machas hispalel Rabbi shel Shabbos be'erev Shabbos v'nichnas lemerchatz v'yotza v'shana lon b'pirkin v'adayin lo chashecha. Rabbi who davened a tfilas mariv of Shabbos on Erev Shabbos. So subsequently he went to the Beis HaMerchatz, and afterwards he came and he taught us Torah, and it wasn't yet dark. Omar Rav hahu denichnas la'aziyah v'kodem gzeira hava. He didn't do a malacha of rechitza. Rather, he walked into the Beis HaMerchatz only to sweat, and that was prior to them making a gezeira against doing so. And therefore, so long as he didn't put hot water on his body to then bathe himself, that was permitted at the time. Ask the Gemara, Ini, is this so? That you cannot do malacha after davening a tfilas mariv shel Shabbos on Erev Shabbos? V'ho Abayi shor leila Rav Dimi bar lavoy lichvurei sali. Abayi permitted Rav Dimi to smoke his clothes through a basket in order to whiten them, which would be a malacha, even though Rav Dimi had already davened a tfilas mariv shel Shabbos on Erev Shabbos. So you see that it's permitted to do malacha afterwards. Says the Gemara, no, hahu ta'usa havoy. That was a mistake. In other words, Rav Dimi, who indeed did daven a tfilas mariv on Erev Shabbos shel Shabbos, but he thought that it was already dark. When he looked outside, it was completely dark. Only what? He made a mistake. It was completely dark because it was very, very cloudy. And subsequently, when the clouds dissipated, it became clear that that wasn't the case. So he came to Abayi and said, what should I do? Abayi said, you can go ahead and do malacha still. It was a toast that you set upon yourself Shabbos. Says the Gemara, V'ta'usa mihadra. And a ta'us, do you have to be chayzer? In other words, is that so? That you can go ahead and then daven another davening? There was a situation when one time it was very, very cloudy. Everybody thought that it was dark. It was nighttime. They went to the shul and they daven a Motzei Shabbos tefillah, thinking that Shabbos is out. Then they saw that the clouds dissipated, and then the sun was shining. It was still Shabbos day. Since you already davened, then it's a good tefillah. You don't have to daven again. So Gemara is asking if that's the case. So then, when Abayi told Rav Dimi, so he didn't have to tell him to daven again. Now it says the Gemara, shiny tzibur. The tzibur is different. Because the tircha did tzibura, we don't want to matriach the tzibur. Therefore, Rebbe allowed them to stay with the tefillah they already daven without requiring that they daven again. But if it was a yachid, an individual, he would, yes, have to be chayzer and daven a second time. Says the Gemara the following. Omar Rabbi Chia bar Avin. Rebbe Tzali shel Shabbos be'erev Shabbos. Rav, rather, davened a tfilas mariv of Shabbos on Erev Shabbos. he took on Shabbos early, a Tosefes Shabbos. Rav Yoshaya Matzli Shel Motzoi Shabbos b'Shabbos. And Rav Yoshaya, he davened an early Tfilas Motzei Shabbos, Tfilah Chol of Motzei Shabbos, and it was still Shabbos. Rav Tzali Shel Shabbos be'erev Shabbos oimer kedusha ala kois, or eino oimer kedusha ala kois. When Rav davened a Shabbos davening on erev Shabbos, that means he took on Shabbos early. Does he also make kiddush on the kois or not? And some explain that to be because, after all, tefillah is d'Rabbanan, but to make kiddush on the kois, kiddush itself, rather, is a deraisa. And therefore, to make kaddish the yom, maybe that is not done. That you would have to wait until nightfall. Says the Gemara, Toshma, the Omar of Nachman Amar Shmuel, Mispalel Odom Shal Shabbos be'erev Shabbos, V'omer kiddush ala kois, V'hilchas kavasei. That Shmuel says that indeed a person who davens a tefillas marv of Shabbos on erev Shabbos, he does, yes, make kiddush ala kois, even though it's not yet nightfall. Rabbi Yoshaya Matzli Shel Motzoi Shabbos b'Shabbos, he daven Motzei Shabbos, even though it's still Shabbos. Oimer havdala ala kois, or ain't oimer havdala ala kois. Does he make havdala or not? Says the Gemara Toshma, Dom Rabbi Yehuda Mar Shmuel, Mispalel Odom Shel Motzoi Shabbos b'Shabbos. V'oimer havdala al kois. He does indeed can make a havdala ala kois, but he does not make the bracha that's going on the fire. And of course, he still cannot do malach until after nightfall. Says the Gemara, Amrav Zira, Amrav Asi, Amrav Elozar, Amrav Chanina, Amrav Rav. Bitzad Amud Zeh Hispal Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi Shal Shabbos be'erev Shabbos. On the side of this Amud, of this pillar, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi davened a tefillas ma'ariv of Shabbos on erev Shabbos. Ki also Ulo, when Ulo came, he corrected him. He said, Omar, he said, Bitzad Tmora Hava, lo Bitzad Amud Hava. When he davened, it wasn't on the side of a pillar, it was on the side of a date tree. V'lo Rabbi Yishmael Rabbi Yosi Hava, El Rabbi Elozar Rabbi Yosi Hava. It wasn't Rabbi Yishmael Rabbi Yosi, rather it was somebody else, Rabbi Elozar Rabbi Yosi. V'lo shel Shabbos be'erev Shabbos Hava, El shel Motzoi Shabbos be'Shabbos Hava. And also, it wasn't a tefillah Shabbos of Mariv on erev Shabbos, but rather it was a tefillah Chol of Motzai Shabbos on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, quoting our Mishnah, when it comes to Mariv, there is no machlokes. Everybody agrees, ein lo keva. Says our Gemara, my ein lo keva. What is the kavana of our Tana when he uses the word that Mariv, it does not have keva, ein lo keva? Ilema di boy matzli kule leilyo listening tefillas ha'erev kol halaylo. If the kavana is that you can daven all night long the tefillas mariv, then why do you not say more directly kol halayla? Why do you say ein la keva? Elo mai ein la keva. Rather, what does it mean ein la keva? It must be another mashmos, another meaning behind the words ein la keva. Keman da Omar tfilas arvis reshus. It's going like the opinion that's saying mariv is a reshus, as opposed to a choiv, like shacharis and mincha. Da Omar Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel tfilas arvis, Rabbi Gamliel oimer choiva, Rabbi Yoshua oimer reshus. It's machlokes tanoim. Rabbi Gamliel says it's a choiva, but Rabbi Yoshua maintains that it's a reshus. Omar Abai halacha kedivrei ha'omer choiva, v'rova Omar halacha kedivrei ha'omer reshus. That indeed the halacha is like the Mandarma says reshus, says Rava. Some say that means that tefillas mariv is a reshus in that sense that it's not a reshus legamre. It means that it's a mitzvah. It's not as stringent as a choiva, but it's a mitzvah, and therefore under certain extenuating circumstances one could be more mekil in mariv. Others explain it to mean that it began as a reshus, but once it was davened, then it became a choiva.